Clark Kent has returned from Warworld to planet Earth, and now he's ready to reconnect with some of his closest friends and allies. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Superman Kal El Returns Special Issue number 1, a brand new special anthology one-shot, and find out together, shall we? So as we head into the book proper, I think I know what you're probably thinking, because I was thinking it too, and that is, hey, Superman's been back for a while now, why is this special issue only coming out this week? The answer is, of course, a resounding I don't know, but on the upside, we do actually get a pretty nice collection of artists and writers coming together to tell one-shot Superman stories like this first one, courtesy of Mark Waid. It focuses on Superman reconnecting with Batman, which makes a lot of sense considering that Mark Waid is currently writing the Batman-Superman book so that the world's finest can join forces and defeat arch-nemesis to the Doom Patrol, Mr. Nobody. Nobody's evil scheme this time is fittingly out there and avant-garde. He's harnessing the powers of history to recreate a very famous riot that took place back in the year 1913 when a particular ballet performance called The Rite of Spring proved to be way too much for audiences at the time to handle. No, really, this isn't made up, this is a real piece of history. Superman makes short work of Mr. Nobody, breaking the metronome that he was using to cause all the chaos. After all, the Doom Patrol might put up with his shit, but not the Man of Steel. An enraged Mr. Nobody decides to get back at Superman and Batman by, get this, trapping them in their own history, which in turn means trapping them in their own very long publication history, which in turn is personified by them actively getting trapped inside their own comic book panels, the white bars on the outside becoming like prison bars. Honestly, you know what, I think Morrison themselves would very much approve this sort of out-there weirdness, and in fact, embracing the out-there weirdness is exactly what Batman and Superman need to do to escape their box. As Superman states, you know, I mess with Mr. Mixel-Spitlick a lot, so this isn't all that weird for me in the grander scheme of things. With the day saved, Batman decides to make him and Superman breakfast at his brownstone, this actually being the first time that Superman has ever actually visited. Batman spins a very funny yarn, too, about how on his great quest to become the greatest scientist, chemist, kung fu master, ninja, he also studied at Cordon Bleu for a couple years. He didn't, but I mean, really, if you discovered that Batman was also a master chef on top of being a master at everything else, would you be surprised? I know I wouldn't. Now, the next story in this pack actually features Superman and his best pal, Jimmy Olsen. In fact, this story ends up being a lot more introspective than most Jimmy Olsen stories I've read have been. Jimmy is, of course, super happy to have Superman back on Earth and helping out, but at the same time, he feels that he may be suffering as an artist. He just keeps taking the same pictures of Superman saving the world over and over again, and yet nothing ever seems to change or get better. Is he a horrible hack? Is the world a horrible place? He's not sure, but he ends up really spinning until Superman manages to help him. The two actually end up commiserating over a piece that Jimmy had done, a photo of Jon in the role of Superman that actually recreates the very famous cover of Action Comics #1 with him lifting the car. Jimmy says that Jon is a lot like Clark, but a lot different too. He manages to find a way to always stay behind after a big crime or crisis takes place to make sure that the people there are made whole again. And they both agree that if Jon can shake stuff up as Superman, maybe Jimmy can shake stuff up too as an artist and a photographer, and in the end, him and Superman do actually find the perfect new photo to take that they've never taken before. After that, we actually get a very romantic little story about Clark and Lois reconnecting after his time away on Warworld. They go on a second honeymoon to Venice, and while they're away, Jon ends up falling for a trap set by Lex Luthor. Jon assumed that he was closing in on Luthor's brand new weapons factory, but in reality, he ended up stumbling into a PR stunt, with Luthor turning one of his old abandoned warehouses into housing for the homeless. So yeah, Jon feels pretty dumb about this, and he confides in his dad that he thought after all this time of being Superman, he would be better at it by now. Clark tells Jon not to worry, that Luthor is about as slippery as they come, and just when you think you have him pinned down, he ends up going in a completely different direction. Jon, inspired by his father's words and desperate to try and prove himself, realizes that Luthor's newest plot actually involves misdirection, breaking out hardened criminals from Stryker's Island and sending them to commit crimes in the city as a way to distract Superman and Son from Luthor's real plans. Jon figures this out and then puts the fear into Superman by saying, hey, I know that you know that I know that we know, which means you're probably not going to be able to use this same trick on us again. Now, the final story in this pack is actually all about Superman returning to the Hall of Justice and catching up with his fellow Leaguers, and I guess there's no bad blood between him and the League anymore, despite the fact that if you remember, before Superman went away for Warworld, there was a whole big thing about the League not backing his play. Guess everyone either forgot about that, or they moved on, or whatever. Superman takes the new junior member of the team, Naomi, on a walking tour of the Hall of Justice and some of his and the League's greatest moments, again as personified by actual famous comic covers, which I thought was a nice touch. And by the time all of that is said and done, Superman leaves only to be teleported away to the events of Dark Crisis. And so that was Superman Kal El Returns Special issue number 1, everybody, and overall I thought it was fine. None of these stories particularly changed my life, but they were all perfectly fun and compelling enough to justify their own existence. I will admit, releasing it now is so weird because Superman has been back in his own book for a while now. Feels like this pack of stories should have come out way earlier than it actually did to maximize its impact. There's also nothing here that I would necessarily call must-read material for anything that's going on either in the Superman book or in any of the other books starring him at the moment. But I can't really hold any of that against these stories. They're all light and breezy and bright and a fun read, and I would ultimately give them a 7 out of 10. But no, you don't gotta rush out and get this one. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.